Hi everyone! In this video we will launch an OpenEdX platform on Amazon Web Services. For those who don't know, OpenEdX is an open source platform for online learning. I like to call it the WordPress of online learning. Now, if you are familiar with OpenEdX, you might have heard that it is difficult to install. This is no longer the case, thanks to Tutor. Tutor is a piece of software that we developed. It is an open source, Docker-based OpenEdX distribution. This means that we repackaged the OpenEdX original source code and installation scripts such that the entire OpenEdX platform runs inside Docker containers. This makes it extremely easy to install, manage, and upgrade an OpenEdX platform. So let's get started. In the next couple minutes, we will install and customize an OpenEdX platform on Amazon Web Services. We will be deploying the Ironwood release of OpenEdX, which is the latest stable release. This installation requires very little technical skills, as you will see. Let's Google Tutor in the Amazon Marketplace. This points us to something called an AMI. An AMI is an image of an AWS server. In this image, all software is already pre-installed, pre-configured, and ready to run. This image costs 7 cents per hour, which amounts to just $50 per month. You can also buy a yearly subscription, and that is 18% cheaper. The image comes with a 30-day free trial. That means that you can cancel your subscription at any time during the first 30 days, no question asked. And you will only be billed for running the server and not the image. Alright, let's do this. The server will be located in the Paris region because this is where I live and I expect most of my users to come from France. So the latency will be smaller. If you live elsewhere, then of course you should select a different option. Next, we need to pick a server size. We recommend selecting a server with at least 4 GB of RAM. So we suggest running at a minimum a T3A medium instance. If you expect you'll have many users on your platform, you should be running a T3A large instance. Let's hit continue to subscribe. If this is the first time you launch the Tutor AMI, you will have to accept the terms and conditions. Then we continue to configuration. This is just a recap and we can continue to launch. For simplicity, we launch from this website. Now, it's very important that you select the right security group here, otherwise you will not be able to access your instance. Also, if you don't already have a key pair, then you should generate a new one and save the private key on your personal computer. That's it, you're ready to go. Now hit launch and the server will be created by Amazon Web Services. The next thing that we need to do is to configure the domain name records to point to the AWS server. For that, we will need to write down the server IP address. Let's view the EC2 instance. I can see its IP address here in the bottom right corner. Of course, your IP address will be different. Just copy it as we will need it in a minute. I now head to my domain name registrar. I registered my domain name with the Gandhi registrar. So I go to gandhi.net and I sign in. As you can see, I am the owner of the overhang.io domain name. That means that all internet traffic sent to the overhang.io domain name will be sent to the destination servers that I configured. So let's configure the demo.overhang.io domain name to point to my brand new server. Here, I select an A record. The demo subdomain will now point to the IP address of the server which I just created. I also create a CNAME record to point all subdomains of the demo subdomain to that same server. We'll see in a bit why this is important. To check that my DNS records are correct, I head to dnschecker.org. Here I type the domain name demo.overhang.io and it shows that my domain name correctly points to my server. For good measure, I can also check that the studio subdomain also points to the right server. That's great! Now we can actually get started launching our OpenEdX platform. Let's follow the usage instructions from the AWS Marketplace. The management console runs on port 3737. This management console is protected by a username and password. Username is Tutor, and the password is the same as the ID of the instance. So we copy the instance ID of our server here in the bottom left corner. Then we access the management console at demo.overhang.io on port 3737. This works because the DNS records were properly configured. I am using Tutor for the username and the instance ID, which I just copied, as the password. That's it, we're in. Now let's configure and launch our OpenEdX platform. As instructed, I type local quick start. Note that there is an autocomplete, so you just need to hit the tab key to autocomplete the commands. The LMS, which is the student-facing part of OpenEdX, will run at demo.overhang.io. The CMS, also called the Studio, is accessible only by teachers and course staff. It will run at studio.demo.overhang.io, so I just hit enter to keep the default. This will work thanks to the CNAME that we configured earlier in the DNS management console. Let's customize the platform name, and we will keep the default platform contact address as well as the default language, which is English. We do want to access the platform with HTTPS, which is a secure version of HTTP. Now, this is really important. This will only work if you have properly configured your DNS records. Otherwise, the quick start command will fail during HTTPS certificate generation. We have properly configured the domain names, so we can safely enable HTTPS. Now, Tutor takes care of initializing the entire OpenEdX platform. This is hard to understand if you don't have expertise with Docker or OpenEdX. But if you have technical experience, you'll notice that all commands run by Tutor are printed on the screen in purple color, which makes it easy to understand what is actually going on. Quick start will take a couple minutes. During this time, it is important that we do not close the management console. Otherwise, migrations will crash halfway and it will be difficult to debug. Let's fast forward. After a couple minutes, quick start ends and we can access our platform at this address. We can see that the LMS is properly working at the configured address. The platform name that we wrote during quick start is visible on the front page as well. The CMS is also working properly at the studio.demo.overhang.io address. And again, the platform name that we configured is visible on the CMS front page. Now, it's important to understand that the local quick start command can be run at any time again to reconfigure your OpenEdX platform. For instance, to change the platform default language, I will run local quick start again. At the language selection step, I will select ZHCN, which stands for Mainland Chinese. I will leave other options as before. The rest of the quick start will be much faster than previously, as we don't have to run database migrations. After a minute or two, I can refresh the welcome page for the LMS and the CMS and see that the default language has changed to Chinese. I will now switch back to English. Now, what should we do with this platform? Well, we should create a course so that students can actually sign up and enroll. For that, I need to create a staff account and log into the studio. This is very easy with Tutor. Just run local create user with the super user and staff options. I am prompted for a password, and then my user is created. I can then log in to the studio with the email address and password I just created. I can then create my first course. But what is probably best is to load an existing course that uses many OpenEdX features. For that, I will run the local import demo course command, which will import an already created course that exists on GitHub. This demo course then appears both in the LMS and the studio. Let's enroll in this demo course. We can access every component of the course and all is good. Now, there's a feature of OpenEdX where students can take notes in the course by highlighting certain passages. Here, this feature is not enabled. However, it's possible to enable this feature with the help of a plugin. By running plugins list, I can see the list of installed plugins. Now I enable the Notes plugin by running plugins enable notes. Again, the changes are taken into account by running local quick start. After the changes have been applied, I can go to the Advanced Settings page of the course in the CMS. A new setting has appeared, which is called Enable Student Notes. I set it to True and apply the changes. When I go back to the LMS and reload the page, I can now highlight certain passages. All my notes are then listed in a dedicated tab for that course. This is an example of adding features to Open edX by means of Tutor plugins. Many custom features can be enabled or disabled with plugins. For instance, the Figures plugin will give you in-depth analytics about course enrollments on your platform. I encourage you to try it out. And of course, if you don't need or don't want to use any more plugin, then you can always disable it with Plugins Disable. Now, there are some things that are not done via plugins. Theming is one of those. If we look at our LMS, we can see that the theme is not very appealing. It's a blend gray, the catchphrase, it works, powered by Open edX, is a bit cheesy. The about, donate, and all other footer links are broken. Finally, there's this huge copyright notice and this commercial link to edX.org, which you probably don't want on your platform. This is why we designed the Indigo theme. This is a theme that is easily customizable, and we're going to install it on our platform. So let's follow the installation instructions. First, we need to connect to the server. Now, this is slightly technical. We have to open a shell and connect by SSH. If you are on Windows, you should install a software called PuTTY. We connect with the Ubuntu user to the address of the server that we configured. I'm going to follow the instructions. First, clone the repository. Then I will render the theme. Next, we need to rebuild the Open edX Docker image. For that, we can go back to our management console and type images build Open edX. While the image is getting built, we can activate the theme. To do so, I will go to the LMS administration site. This is possible because the user that I created is a super user. There is a section called Site Themes. Let's go there and click Add Site Theme. The theme will be applied to the demo.overhang.io domain name. I need to do the same for the studio, so I click Save and Add Another. There, I put the studio domain name. Let's go back to our image building. This step takes a while. After a few minutes, the image is ready and we can start using it with, you guessed it, local quick start. As you can see, our brand new theme was properly applied to our Open edX platform. At this point, you should take the time to explore the platform and all its features. I strongly encourage you to take a look at the Open edX documentation hosted at docs.edx.org. For Open edX related questions, you should go to the official community forums at discuss.openedx.org. For Tutor related questions, head to discuss.overhang.io. And if you would like professional support for your platform, you should consider buying a long-term support license at overhang.io/tutor/LTS. That's it. Happy learning.